What's a random decision you made years ago that ended up having a huge impact on your life? Tried a new hobby on a whim. Now it's my career. Funny how life works sometimes. September XX, 198X. Sunday morning in PA to board. Went to store and did an impulse buy of the Sunday New York Times. There was a /4x5 wanted that screamed I was qualified. I prepared a resume. Sent it in. Took train to NYC for interview, not expecting much as I was in no way near a NYC type person. Offered the job on that first interview. Doubled my then salary /. I lied about how much I was making /. Retired 26 years later. All because of one boring Sunday. I went to a cafe with my best friend and was married 4 weeks later. I didn't want to go out initially. My now husband of 25 years was in my hometown for the first time in his life, and for one night only. We met by chance. My friend didn't know him, and the rest is history. We were engaged a week later and married 4 weeks later. Easier times. Go out, have a chat, get married, and live happily ever after. I love him. Read a blog post where the author talked about how he just got a job at Google writing JavaScript and encouraging other JS nerds to apply. I'm normally too shy to talk to strangers on the internet, but decided to give it a go because I still don't know why. I got the job, so was able to follow my scientist girlfriend to America, spent 17 years there, married her, had a kid, made good money, got to design a few things billions of people around the world use every day, and made some incredible friends. If I hadn't read that blog post and had been in a certain mood that day, none of that would have happened. Just do it. Won a few grand, and instead of buying a car, went and lived overseas for a few years. A month after my 18th birthday, on March 15, 1982, I stood in the Chicago Greyhound bus depot with my 5-month-old son, a grocery bag of baby supplies, and $81. I was fleeing a bad situation. The next 3 buses that were leaving were going to Minneapolis, New Orleans, and San Francisco. I was desperate to get on a bus so my boyfriend didn't find me. I had to make a choice quickly. I chose Minneapolis because I had lived, for a short time, in Minnesota as a child. After I paid for the ticket, I had $16 left. I arrived in Minneapolis and started my life over. Now I've been here over 41 years. I have a good life. Sometimes I still wonder how it would have turned out had I got on one of the other buses. Accepted a job offer in a city I'd never visited. It led to a career I love, lifelong friends, and meeting my partner. Sometimes, the best decisions are the ones you make on a whim. It was 1998. I had about $1 left in my allowance, and I was wandering around some shops trying to decide how to spend it. I was initially going to buy some candy, but I walked past a used bookstore that was having a 99-cent sale. I decided to get a book instead, and also randomly decided to maximize my investment by buying whatever book had the most pages. I ended up with a huge instruction manual on something called HTML. I'd never heard of HTML and didn't know what it was, but I took it home and started messing with the computer. Cue a 20-year career, first in tech, and then in tech-adjacent fields, that has taken me all over the world. I still have the book. I stopped believing in the concept of pants. Randomly signed up on a dating website. Received a DM from a guy with 0 profile photos, but seemed interesting to talk to. Took a chance and responded. We've been together for nearly 8 years now. Sold at $13, triple my buy price. Then it hit $130, then $1,300, then $13,000. Just waiting for $130,000 so I can really cry. When I was 15, my family moved to Arkansas. I was always really shy and never went out of my way in the slightest to be social. First day as a new kid in my science class, the kid next to me was cheating off of my word search, and when I finished mine, I slid it over to him. We became friends that day, and I knew I loved him. I moved back home to Washington about 2 months after that. I'm 20 now, and just recently moved back to be with him. Choosing my spouse. Years ago, I decided to take a job offer in a new city. It felt like a small step at the time, but it led to incredible career growth, lifelong friendships, and a sense of adventure I never expected. I decided to go on workout just out of curiosity how it feels like to work out because most of my friends are on it also, Turns out I enjoyed it, and even when my friends stopped working out, I continued and make it as a hobby. Applying to Tufts University's master's program. With my GPA at the time, I didn't think I'd get in. I literally did it for shits and giggles, lol. But somehow, I got in. Not marrying my first love. I know I will been miserable, seeing his wife now. I completely fail at studying, which is why I failed an unfailable class at university. I didn't study at all since I was so certain it couldn't fail. I was required to retake the course that included group projects. This gal and I were on a team the second time around. Last summer, I got married to her. Decided to swipe right on a dating app, even though I wasn't really into online dating. That swipe led to meeting my now spouse. We've been together for 8 years. In college one morning, I was hurrying to class since I was late and cut through the large field on campus. Someone called out to me to help them set up a table for an event since they had a knee they'd injured. Since there were a few folks heading to class, I could have passed him by, but I stopped to help. The person I helped was the supervisor at the computer lab, and the event was the on-campus job fair. We got to talking, and while I ended up not going to class, I got a work-study job at the computer lab out of it. 14 years later, I'm a successful IT professional and I work at a major university. I honestly sometimes wonder what would have happened had I decided I needed to get to class more than helping that guy. Saying yes to tacos. I applied for a job I was not interested in, but I needed the money. They saw a potential, offered me another position. I grew into it, they paid me to go back to school, gave me several opportunities to work abroad. During one of them, I met the love of my life, and I eventually moved to his country. I was at uni part of extra points. I did an English course and wrote something that had a big impact on myself. I sold and gave away everything and took a backpack to Australia, and 8 years later I'm still here. I'd say it's impactful. I am not very outgoing, more of an introvert. Met a stunning woman at work. So damn pretty I had a hard time maintaining eye contact. It was like looking at the sun. Way out of my league. I decided the hell with it and asked her out. We are now married and have a kid. Shoot your shot, kings. You never know until you try. Stopping drinking. Best decision I ever made. My best friend dragged me to a party as his +1. I met my husband that night. Back then, it was hard to convince me to go outside anywhere, and there was a voice in my head telling me to go to this party. I decided to sign on to a game after a year of not playing. Coincidentally, my gaming friend also signed on that day after a long time of not playing. We partied up and got to talking. Not sure how the topic hadn't come up before, but we found out we lived like 10 minutes from each other. Went from having one friend to like 20 overnight. My best friend in high school recommended an anime to me. Watched it out of boredom. Fell in love with the Japanese language. Went to study Japanese in college. Got a scholarship and went to Japan. Been happily married to a Japanese person for 7 years now. Decided to try peanut butter instead of jelly. Now I'm a proud member of Team Crunchy PB. Life is nutty but delicious. I got temporary dreadlocks because my parents didn't approve, so I figured I'd just try it out. Also, I didn't have money to do my hair, and I knew this was cheap in the long run. A year later, I removed the extensions and continued with my hair. My parents had realized that locks didn't make me a bad person. 5 years later, my locks are long. I love my hair. I feel beautiful. Everyone else likes them, and it's the hairstyle, or rather lifestyle, for me. Waiting for the next event, my brother and I went into a seminar at random without knowing what it was. It was about teaching abroad, something I had never heard of TBH. I spent the next 15 years abroad. In the 9th grade, I was in one of the worst schools in my city. So when I went there for a year, my grade dropped drastically and I started smoking, always cursed. I know it ends at the person, but I wasn't the one who had stability. So I decided to change my school to a better one, and got by a change into the A class where everyone was good at the class. So I didn't want to look stupid in the whole class. I started studying a lot and make friends who were more stable and mature. I quit smoking and found hobbies which would improve me. I changed in mindset, and I think the only reason why I'm now in uni is this decision. Otherwise, I would be someone who don't have any goal in her life. Joined the army at 17. Got me out of my smallish hometown. Saw the world. On my 49th birthday, I decided I didn't want to have an old man's body anymore. At that stage, I wasn't able to stand or walk more than 30 minutes without heavy back pain. That's when I decided to get strong and lean. 2.5 years later, I am 50 pounds lighter. My 18-year-old son calls me a tank. I do 18 pull-ups and 15 ring dips, and I get more compliments in a week than in the 20 years before my 49th birthday combined. Making a Lego stop-motion movie when I was 10. It got me into editing as a hobby, and now I can call it my career. Did my bachelor's, and now I work at a major German company and make good money while doing what I love. I joined the Army for fun at the age of 18, and it changed my personality completely. It made me stronger and confident. I am now living a happy life. Grew up in a home of abusive alcoholics. Vowed to never drink, smoke, or do drugs. Never have and never will. 43 years strong. Back in 2006, my freshman year of high school, a couple of people I knew said they were going to a show at a coffee shop that would have local bands play. For whatever reason, I really wanted to go and begged my mom to let me go, and she said yes. At the time, I was taking guitar lessons at the local music store, and it turns out that the guy who had the time slot right before me was at the show that night. We started talking and eventually became best friends. We're still best friends almost 18 years later. Took a liberal arts class in archaeology. As a result, I changed majors, ended up on a totally different career path, met my husband, and now live abroad. Decided to get a cafeteria lunch rather than make my own in high school. Was talking to someone in the queue about what to do when I graduated, and I talked about some of the universities I was applying to. Some girl overheard me who had never even glanced at me before interrupted and said, "I'm going there. We could be uni buddies." So I did and got in. Now she ditched me the second she found her own friends, but whatever. Without her, I'd have never moved to that city, never met my now wife, all because I decided I couldn't face another corned beef sandwich that week.